just want to start recording this real quick. There we go.
This meeting is being recorded. Okay, good.
Yeah. All right, so everyone, welcome back. It stinks a little bit being on Zoom, but at least we get to do something. I want to introduce Dr. Vince Burke. He's a doctor of physical therapy. He owns his own practice in Rochelle Park, New Jersey. I think it's been, what, 14 years now you've owned the practice, been operating?
Yeah, about 14 years there, yeah.
Yeah, so Vince is going to...
1 second, Art. I'm seeing that this meeting is being recorded in the middle of it, and then it says continue. I'm hitting continue. Okay, there you go. Cool. All right, I got you. Yep.
Yeah, so Dr. Burke's going to talk to us today about his personal journey of how he became a DPT and owner of a successful practice. Then he's going to we're going to go into a discussion on some tips and advice for dealing with difficult patients and building a rehab program, not just around the patient's injury, but also their psychology. And then he's going to go into how he implements his character training program into his day-to-day life, especially in his practice. And then at the end, if we have time, we'll go into a little bit of a Q&A for anyone who has questions for him. So Doc, if you want to take over, introduce yourself, all you.
Yeah, all right. So anyway, welcome, and I appreciate the opportunity at RJ and Clemson University Tigers has given me to really reach out on some of my philosophy and sharing it with the younger students who are aspiring to be a physical therapist. So a little bit of a history, I was in high school and playing ball, like a typical story was back in the day of why you want to be a therapist, but mine was a way that I love sports and orthopedics, and it was exciting to be around athletes. So I was a very good basketball player in high school, and had a scholarship. And then when I went to school, I wanted to also go to PT school, and I started out in a physical therapy assistant school. I always thought that, it would pace me a little better just because if I'm going to be doing sports, I didn't want to really crush myself with a lot of coursework. So I went away to college that summer, and all of a sudden, here I am in classes, and it's anatomy and physiology, physics and chemistry. At that point, when I had to register for those courses, I was on the athletic wing, and there was no way that I'd be able to leave the university on a Thursday and come home on a Saturday and just start, cramming with these major subjects. So I kind of decided that, I'm 6 foot, 6'1", and I'm never going to make it to that next level. But what I decided to do is try and make it to the next level in my career. So I went on to get my associate's degree in physical therapy assistant, and it was a great experience. It was a great stepping stone to really see what the profession was about. And not only that, it helped me with my cost of things too, because I didn't have to take out many loans, and it really allowed me to work and still go to school. After the PTA, I went on to take some coursework that's going to fulfill the prerequisites for PT school. And just keep in mind, back in those days, the level of education was just a bachelor's degree in physical therapy. So that's how back I go. And so that was just going to be another 2.5 years. Well, by the time I worked, and I was working with some professional athletes here in New Jersey, and at a really big orthopedic practice as a PTA. And it was one of those things that I want to be able to run the show and be part of the medical team, not just the assistant, but I wanted to be the forefront of what's going on with patients. So I was taking, things were changing where the profession was going to increase its standards and go on to a master's program. So I went on to Barry University, who was only accepting physical therapy assistant students, which was really good for me because it gave me an edge that I was only competing against people with PTA degrees, because, a lot of people have 4.0s, but not a lot of people have 4.0s or 3.8s with physical therapy experience like I had. So now all of a sudden I was starting to see that my track was setting me apart, because not only did I have a very good GPA, but also I was committed to the profession. And, and drive that university in Florida and got my master's there. And then I graduated in high honors, which was really, a nice accomplishment just because of my drive, and that's my personality. Again, setting yourself apart, right? So thinking of extraordinary. And then the field changed again. So when I was done with physical therapy school for my master's, I came back to New Jersey. And then my wife and I heard that Nova was starting a doctorate program, but now I just moved from Florida. So then what I decided to do is I applied and got in, accepted, and then I flew back and forth while I had children and flew back and forth and commuted from Florida to New Jersey while working and doing work. So then after that, I graduated and then hooked up with some, very, very good people. But the one thing that part of our journey while I was in Florida, I worked for a fellow by the name of Dana Van Pelt. And Dana, a small world, he happens to be on the Clemson University campus, and he owns the physical therapy practice there. So a lot of my business model, a lot of my mindset stems from his kind of culture. And it's really cool, ironically, that he's there and in Florida, and I'm here in New Jersey. So it's kind of neat. But he never hired a PTA ever. His whole practice, he had two partners, and they never hired a physical therapy assistant. I went there for a job, and they said, we're really not interested in hiring PTAs. And I was so persistent because I'm like, you know what? I want to work in the best orthopedic facility there is. And for some reason, I just kind of was persistent and reached out to the office manager. And I said my kind of like convincing way that, listen, I'm a guy that could really handle this at this practice. P.S. They gave me a lunch meeting. A week later, I get a call and they hired me at the Boca Athletic Club in Florida. And then, Dana then became a very good friend. But again, it's who you meet and very important, and what impression you give and how they perceive it and take it in. And that's how your stairs to the top are really created, by your doing extraordinary things. Come back here to New Jersey, fast forward, and I had my doctorate. And then I was working with the New York Giants physicians and stuff like that. And then I just decided to open my own facility. And again, I want to be different. So I love bodybuilding and training. So I'm an exercise person, and I wanted to do physical therapy and incorporate something different that no other place has. So I do performance training, personal training, group and team training, and rehab, all by myself for years. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I would do PT in the morning, midday, and night. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would do personal training and then team and group training, and do a lot of community service, a lot of just helping out, going to football games and what have you, and develop relationships. And I could tell you, you could ask RJ, I've never had to advertise in my life, ever. And it's just because the culture that we're committed to is be available and be available. And that's really a big component of the profession. And since then, I was on a Shark Tank at a university, and they asked me to be a Shark Tank at the PT schools, and they presented hundreds of thousands of dollars for each of the clinics. and each student had a model of what their business model was like. And I have to tell you, everybody, all the students wanted to have weekends off. No one wanted to work evenings. So they were telling me in the Shark Tank and have me buy these practices for, you know, $750,000, and they wanted me to invest, but no one wanted to put in the work. They had a lot of staff that said, I'll do the mornings, and every other weekend I want to be off. So knowing my story, you know, the last thing that I wanted to hear is when new grads are interested in what they're making and how many days a week they're off and how many, you know, what's their vacation. So that's a real good take-home message. So kind of that's how my story is and where I evolved from.
Yeah, awesome. I think you had a really unique journey to becoming a DPT that not many people have the experience or will have the experience of, especially having to commute from Florida to New Jersey. It's not easy. So now if you want to go into your philosophy on how you deal with difficult patients.
You there, RJ?
Yeah, am I cutting out?
You there?
Hear you, but
Okay.
I'm not sure about RJ.
Okay.
Looks like he's not in.
My internet's awful in my apartment. So
Okay.
I apologize.
All right. Did you hear that or no?
Yeah, I got it all.
Okay, cool. All right. So anyway, anyone have any questions with kind of like my story a little bit, and you know, just to shoot it out there?
I mean, the one question I want to ask you is how, when you were deciding to commute between Florida and New Jersey, what was it that made you say, like, this is worth it? Like, this is worth going through all the stress of having to travel thousands of miles?
Well, I could tell you, one of the things that, and RJ has been in the clinic for a long time. I'm not a person to say, okay, you must call me Dr. Burke. Of course, on the meet and greet, you do, you know, hey, you know, Dr. Burke, whatever. But after that, I'm totally cool with Vince. And a lot of clinicians, even at your level, the new DPTs, they want to be Dr. So-and-so. They want to have that be told by all patients, all employees, and walk around with that. And that's fine. That's their prerogative, and I get it. But with me, it's not about the title more than the education and knowledge and the journey and being personal and being comfortable, not to have that whole higher than you kind of thing. There's a time and place for it because that's important, right? Especially when you're reaching out and you're talking to new people in the community that, you know, you're a doctor in physical therapy and you never want to mislead anybody. You're not a physician or you're not a doctor, MD. You have to be clear to the public and concise to who you are. And that's really important because there's a lot of people out there that kind of throw the word doctor around, and it's important to let them know a doctor of physical therapy, rehabilitation, or your specialties, orthopedics and sports medicine, whatever it may be, but at least you need to line that up. But my travels was really to gain more knowledge, but really also if the profession was going to change and the highest level of the profession was a doctor, then why would I stop at the master? There's no way. And you got to, I mean, for me, I want to achieve the highest level in my profession. I think I'd be selling myself short if I stayed as a master in PT. But also, mind you, the community now, everybody, you know, wants to be seen by a doctor. So you can imagine that there's a lot of physical therapists that have bachelor's degrees with 30 years experience, and they know a ton more than a new DPT that just graduated last week. And the community would rather see the person who's a doctor, not the bachelor with 30 years experience. So I never wanted to get caught up in that whole thing. With all my experience over 30 years, right? Why would I sell myself short for the perception of the public and the community to say, I'd rather see, Tom Doe, who just graduated and he's a doctor. And, that weighs in quite a bit. Not only that, but even insurance companies today, they also want a higher standard of a person. So it's all of that. So sometimes it's politics, sometimes it's community perception, and also your own individual self. So that's why I did it.
All right, I think now let's shift into your discussion on how you deal with difficult patients, and again, building a rehab program around the person and not just the injury.
Well, in general in physical therapy, we see people for 3 reasons. 3: pain, loss of function, and complaining, right? So, everybody's pain gives them a different body language, facial expressions, gives them a different attitude. And you as a clinician and a critical thinker, that is to just really observe on body language, gathering some information on how one would walk, how one would sit in a chair, how someone would behave, how they answer questions. And the big thing that today especially, we're very, very hypersensitive as clinicians to be aware of mental illness. Mental illness is such a huge, huge factor that, it used to be kind of like a hidden thing. Even though somebody tore their ACL, someone sprained their ankle, someone has a total hip, someone has a concussion, we used to think of just let's treat the body part that has the dysfunction. And we didn't really pay too much attention to the mental aptitude or the mental situation that a lot of these people come in with, or we can call it clinical baggage or side effects or sequela from an injury. But also we have to think about their family dynamics. See, there's so much going on. It's not just isolated into like this person's boo-boo. They have so much going on. They could be having caring for an autistic child. They have a geriatric mom or dad at home who just fell with a fracture. They're working full time. All of that stuff sometimes makes things crazy in the clinic. But it's really neat and special that we are aware of all these things. So, and that's how you got to get to know the patient beyond their name and beyond their pathology. And the only way you could do that is one thing, is communicate. So it's really important that I know we're in times of hurry up, move on, but in the beginning, if we initially embrace them of how you were doing and you shed on some light that you were showing some empathy for them on how they're doing. Empathy is a word that's huge, and in the industry, sometimes it gets tossed aside, but it's really the ability to put yourself out of your feelings and your life and your situation and put it in somebody else's. And that's key. And us as clinicians, if we could do that, that person will be eager to see you and tell somebody because you're a good listener. So even on my mission statement, my first thing is listen to. And it's really important to listen with really 3 ears. So in the beginning, 80% of all information that you ever need on this person is gathered at the initial evaluation. Once you master the initial evaluation, we'll go into that as the weeks go on with RJ, whatever the form is, you'll see a big difference in how the clinic is run. Now, you also have to treat personalities. And everybody has a different personality. Not that you have to get pushed over per se, but you know what? I call it the 33% rule. 33% of what they want, because a customer always first, 33% what they need, and 33% of what you want. If you balance that, you're going to coordinate a good outcome program for them. It's when they come in and they want 66% of what they want, and then you're fighting. So those patients typically struggle in clinics because they end up becoming shoppers where they go from one clinic to another to another. However, we have different personalities that are really important, different pathologies of mental health that are important, and different cultures. And what I mean by cultures, right? It's, you could have somebody, and I had in my clinic, I've had a young lady come in and said, listen, I only could see a female therapist. Now, at that time, I couldn't accommodate her for that day, but at least it came right to my head. And instead of having that battle with her, this is my practice, I can't do that. How could you even come here and expect me to have a female? You can go on and on like that, but for what? So there's a couple things that you could do. You can just take that in and just say, okay, you know what? Not today, but I could probably set you up with somebody. At least you're getting the ball rolling and you're not, having this horrible culture kind of bash, and collide. Because, there are some cultures that just won't see a male clinician, and that's okay. But that's what I mean. So being understanding of that. Also, I have a couple of Sikh patients that come in and they wear the turban and stuff like that. And even though I got to work on their neck, it's very difficult to have them work on me, but on their neck. So I come up with different things, and as opposed to laying supine or on our back, you could angle them differently in a reclining chair. There's different techniques versus, that they just don't want to take that off, and that's fine. But as long as they know that and you are respecting that by not saying, if you want me to examine your neck, you'd have to take the turban off. But that's being sensitive to other people's culture. And I promise you, this is a true story. When I saw that Sikh, and they typically don't leave the culture of their own, from that point on how I handled his culture, I had probably 15 patients from him. So that's pretty neat, just because I was understanding of his culture. And that's important. So you have cultures, personalities, and mental health issues, and you can all get that on the initial evaluation.
Yes, I think, again, that's an awesome discussion on things you're not necessarily going to learn in physical therapy school. They're not going to have a class on how to treat people from different cultures. So hearing those kind of experiences are really important for us and really valuable. So next, do you want to talk a little bit about your radar training and your character building program and how you incorporate that into your practice?
Well, I have this, you'll see this. You see it, what is it? You see that, RJ?
Yeah, I've got one sitting in my room.
And that's called Game Day. So, one of the things that I've seen over the years is we're always talking about the workplace as performing, and you as an individual performing, working hard, setting goals for yourself and achieving. And then when it comes to working with student athletes, we're always talking about performance. And you guys spend enough time at Clemson, and you'll see that a lot of energy is about performance, touchdowns, yardage, throwing the ball, and how many fans are there and filling up. And that's all about student body performance. But one of the things, or athletic performance, if you will, and even student performance, A's and B's and all that stuff. But the one thing that over the years that has been challenging to see such a decline was human behavior performance. So human behavior performance is you to yourself, caring for yourself, self-care, right? Exercise, eating well, balanced nutrition, balanced socialization, balance your life of extracurricular activities, and not become a one-way road person, me all the way up to the top. You got to look left and right. So I was seeing a big decline among student athletes and even employees, that it became about them. And if we have rules and boundaries, well, all of a sudden people would start to just change and say, well, you know what, can we, not really do that and not do this? And we're losing perspective of our own boundaries at the workplace, at school, among friends, and even with yourself. So I was challenged years ago about how I can make a difference with kids being more positive. And, years ago, when everything was anti-drugs, anti-bullying, and everything was anti, which is a negative word. No, like don't do drugs, anti-drugs, anti-bullying. Well, the word anti, it's a negative. So we're spending a lot of our time, especially in the DARE programs, don't do this, don't do that. Now, could you imagine at the workplace, or even in athletics, or even you're learning how to drive a car, if people were to come up and say, you're sitting there and say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. I mean, even if a professor were to keep on telling you what not to do, it would drive you crazy. How about just saying what to do? And that's positive reinforcement. So that's where I came up with my RADAR program, and it stands for RADAR, R-A-A-D-A-R, responsibility, accountability, appreciation, determination, attitude, respect. So those are the 6 principles. And then in the 6 principles, we have 11 elements. And you could probably see the logo over here, maybe, I don't know. Could you see that, the logo? And you guys could go to my YouTube and see it there? Those are like the 11 circles, and it's family, right? You always need family. So if you have RADAR and family, and then faith. Faith doesn't always mean a cross. It means believing in yourself, believing in your family, believing in your school, believing in your professors. So family, faith, and friends, right? You need friends. So if you're RADAR to your family and faith and friends, and then you have education, school, what you guys are doing. So you're totally engaging into your academics. So you're being RADAR, you're staying in the zone with your GPAs, your COVID, behavior, whatever your role is, and the rules with the COVID stuff, with the mask and all that stuff. And then then you have work, right? Whether you're, working up to school or on campus or whatever it is. And then you have charity. And charity is a huge thing, part of my program that I talk about, is charity is doing something that's inconvenient to you. Not, charity's not taking your grandmother once a week to dinner. That's not an inconvenience. It's something that's going to remove yourself from your schedule, and you got to kind of like be uncomfortable. So being uncomfortable is big, because in school, in PT school, you got to be uncomfortable by saying no to a lot of things. You're going to miss a lot of things, and you may even miss some weddings. Hopefully not too many, and miss some wakes, hopefully not too many, but it depends on where you're traveling from. But you have to learn to be uncomfortable by saying no and speaking up. You know what? I can't go. My time will come, and I have my responsibilities, part of the RADAR, to do. So that's important. And then as far as your skill set, that's another element. Skill is important. I don't care if it's practicing your presentations, in school. It could be foul shoots. It could be, fishing, whatever your skill set is, basketball, weight training, whatever it is. The other thing is training is important. Training could even be taking lessons on guitar lessons. It could be, any kind of training, physical training, your sports, and then nutrition and rest. So those are the 11 elements. If you're in the radar zone for all those 11 elements, you are going to be an extraordinary person. So the athletic performance is one thing, but human behavior performance is another. So just last week, I got a letter that I sent out, and I got a response from Notre Dame. Has everyone heard, Play Like a Champion, right, from Notre Dame? So I just got an email from them, and Notre Dame's interested in maybe, buying into my radar program. But again, I'll put it out there. I mean, in Clemson and Clemson's PT Club, if you ever wanted to make that a legacy and start something big, because as you know, the temperature of where we're at, it's not easy what's going on with human behavior performance. So if we can come up with a system, a program that could at least have people make a difference by making a difference in what's going on and not make it difficult. So that's the big thing. So that ties in my radar. So you got, for me, I do orthopedic sports medicine, I do personal training, group training, and then of course character. So that's how my practice flows every day. Every day is game day. So.
Yeah, Doc, thanks a ton for that. I mean, does anyone have any? I think it's a good time to move into the Q&A now.
All right.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions for Dr. Burke?
Yeah, I actually have a question.
Yep.
So I'm a nutrition major, and I know you're talking about a little bit about nutrition. So like, have you ever I guess, do you know any physical therapists that are kind of like dietitians as well? Like they've gotten like a dietitian license?
No, I have to tell you, many, a couple things. One is a dietitian person and a nutritionist. It seems to me that there's so many watered down programs out there, and you can go online, right, and you can become a nutritionist or say you are, but a dietitian is someone that's really a lot different, much more skillful and licensed and certified, because then you're going to go into a hospital setting, you're going to go into a rehab setting. No, I don't know too many. I know a lot of physical therapists and personal trainers that are nutritionists, but not dietitians. You know what I'm saying? So it's two different things, right? And that's clear. But however, they get intertwined a little bit. I mean, I think we always talk about what you put into your body is how your body performs, right? So the basics in PT school you get the basics, vitamin A, B, C, and D, and E, right? We get that, and zinc now and all that stuff. That's basic, but not really. I don't see that. However, more and more we're seeking that body healing and mental health as a big tie-in with nutrition, and to have a group, and now there are groups that are getting together and saying, okay, he or she's going to do the diet for you, the nutrition, he'll do the rehab, he'll do the OT. So for you, it would be tough to, going to practice by yourself. You'd have to kind of be part of a big group. But I think it's very powerful to be very educated on the nutrition, a little bit more than an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Dr. Burke?
I have a question.
Yep.
You mentioned that you were into bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Was that something that you were interested in before you decided to become a PT, or was that something after you became the PT? Because I know that a lot of PTs that I've seen that I've had work on me are also super athletic.
Yeah, well, I mean, athletics is one thing and bodybuilding is another, to be honest with you, because when I was bodybuilding, I'm a former Mr. New Jersey. I was in the gym for about 6 hours a day. So that's a little different. Bodybuilding, I took it to the extreme of the 1%. So, or you could just be a bodybuilder and then you could just be an athletic. So it's a couple different things. But in high school, I was pretty slight my junior year, and I was playing varsity. And then my brother played football. I have 6 brothers and 1 sister, so we have a family of 8. He hit the weights a little bit, and then I would again embrace a different culture. That I went to high school. I walked to high school in the morning, went to the weight room with football players and wrestlers, and then showered and went to class. At that point, I was a lot bigger my senior year playing basketball. And it's funny because I go down the hallway of champions at the high school. I took my daughter, and what a difference between my junior state championship team and my senior. Big difference. So I liked it. And then when I went to college, I was in a fraternity with a lot of athletes who played football. But remember, I dropped my basketball, did the fraternity with football players. So where'd football players go? To the weight room. And then one thing led to another. So then I got a job in the weight room. And that's what I do. I got the key. I went there. I was there for 3 hours a day. I cleaned up the room, and then I would work out for 2 hours with the football team. And that's how. Then after that, got my license as a PTA, and then I went into bodybuilding per se, and that's where I kind of blew up a little bit in that respect. And then I knew that if I was going to go to the next level in bodybuilding, I was going to be able to pursue that by going to PT school, because you can't go to the gym for 6 hours a day while you're going to PT school. So you have to make that decision. But right now, I'm 55, and I set some goals for myself. I ran a marathon. I hate running, but you know what? I did it because it was uncomfortable. My brothers challenged us as a whole group, so 5 of us ran the Marine Marathon. So each couple years or whatever, I pick on myself and give myself very uncomfortable things to do, and I try and accomplish them.
Okay. Thank you. I think it's a good idea to keep exercising when you're a PT, because then you can relate to muscles more when you're talking to your patients.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And not only that, stillness causes illness. That's one of my things I always say. And it's really important to be able to be part of the practice where you're just not walking around the clinic pointing and telling and saying, watch this video, or talk about what you used to do, right? So really walking the walk is important to do. So, RJ and a couple of the guys were part of a research project that I did on weight training last year. So hopefully it'll get published soon, and it's pretty cool. It's called an athletic set. So I'd encourage everyone to talk to RJ and look that up and tell me what you think about it. So it's always going.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have another question.
Yep.
So how do you go about it when you break it to a patient that they have obviously they've already been told they have a really bad injury. I guess, how do you stay positive even though they may not be able to even walk again? They may be lucky if they do.
Yeah, well,
there's a small chance, I guess.
You know what? And I have to tell you, I've faced that a lot. But one of the things is embrace the enemy is important. And I know the human body in a way that it's always trying to, from a nutritional standpoint, it's always trying to heal. And it has a very powerful reset button that there's other ways that can compensate something that's not working. So if somebody really can't walk and have a drop foot, say, or something pretty severe, pay attention on the positive. In other words, if it's a leg, the leg is 12% of the body. So focus on the good, and that will help the affected or the involved. And if you have that mindset, you'd be surprised that they could focus on things they never focus on and make those things that are not injured, make them better. And in program design, when you're fully in orthopedics and sports medicine, and in my practice, the way I practice, is that I go beyond the body part. If you're there for your ankle and you're on crutches, I'm not even focusing on the ankle because they're non-weight bearing. So I don't even touch it. But yes, they're doing core, upper body, right? They're doing cardio and other leg stuff and non-weight bearing stuff on that right leg. But they spent an hour and 15 minutes and I didn't touch the ankle. So, you know, I focus on what can be working and not so much what can't, because there's no sense of sitting there so you can't put any weight bear on it and, you know, your leg doesn't work. Okay, well, I know that. So what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? And at that point, once they buy into that, all of a sudden it just gets a little better. Plus, mind you, I'm an outpatient ambulatory care facility. So, you know, I mean, I worked on brain injury units where you'd walk in and the state of the person never changes. They're you know, at the state of almost sub-coma, you know, coma, you know, so it depends. But where my practice is, and I've been at that area where they're in the ICU and coma and they never come out of it, but still, I would still treat them the same way, because you never know what you stimulate to make something else stimulate.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? All right, well, I think that's it. Vince, hey, thank you for coming on. We appreciate your time, and
Yeah.
be in touch with you soon.
All right, thanks everyone, and good luck, and be safe, and just try and, you know, follow some of the rules and regulations. I know it's not easy out there. There's so many different opinions and judging, but you know what? You guys are aspiring to be medical students, and just respect each other and each other's decisions, and that's important. So, you know, well, good luck to everybody, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. I appreciate you talking to us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, bye-bye. We'll see you.
Yeah. All right, so Dr. Burke, if you want to go ahead. I just have a couple of announcements for the rest of the club I want to send out real quick.
All right, so what I do is they leave?
Yeah, and it'll be out.
All right, great.
All right, so if y'all don't know what Tiger Link is, we had a pre-health coalition meeting today, which is me and all the other pre-health club presidents, along with Harlan Williams. If y'all don't know what Tiger Link is, it's basically Facebook for Clemson alumni in the health industry. So if you want to go take a look at that, it'll give you a list of almost basically, if they have a profile, every Clemson alum who's a physical therapist, speech therapist, any some kind of surgeon, whatever, and you'll be able to go connect with them on there. So that's a really cool resource I didn't know we had, that I encourage y'all to check out. And
What did you say it was again?
It's called Tiger Link, and I'll include all this in the email that goes out after with the video. And then if y'all aren't part of the pre-health canvas page, send an email to the club email, and we'll forward all the names to Harlan and make sure y'all get in that, because that's another great place for resources, especially if you're starting to apply for grad school. So again, thank y'all for coming out. I think this was a really good first meeting, and hopefully I'll see y'all next week at our next meeting with the guys at UPTSM. All right, and then for the exec board, I'll be in touch with y'all. I'm hoping to have a meeting either later this week or beginning of next week just to go over some more stuff. All right. That's all I've got. Be good, everyone. Stay safe.